Our word for today says there is no trace of coercion or concern for appearances in Nichiren's behavior, because we be practicing Nichiren Buddhism. He looked onto those who he looked on those who were suffering, those who were bravely fighting alongside him, as if they were himself in the same situation. He prized each and every one of them. He encouraged them and sympathized with them. And we must never forget that the true essence of humanity is found in this. When we observe Nichiren's actions, we deeply are struck by the conviction that this is the way a Buddha must live. So, and I know that there are other examples of people doing this. I know I heard Jesus was like this too, but it seems like a lot of Christians forget that kind of behavior and don't be doing like Jesus do. So I want to remind y'all, of the mentors that came before us to teach us the way. They hung out with all the folks. They focused on folks who were suffering and used their privileges, not just for themselves, but for the good of each other. So I want to dive right into this conversation because I don't know about y'all, but over the weekend, Netflix dropped breaking news. Basically, it was basically breaking news. It was about the only thing that was gonna get some of us to not be paying attention over there to what Trump's doing for a second. Because we have been going back and forth as a community. I have heard a lot of y'all saying a lot of different things when it comes to Jussie Smollett. And all I want to say, first of all, is not too much on my Jussie. Okay, that's my boo. So not too much on my Jussie. And I'm so I think proud and just grateful that this documentary came out, because it introduced a lot of new evidence that I think that, for me, it doesn't change anything. It definitely deepens my conviction on what I knew and felt to be true about the situation, because it's ACAB all day over here. All cops are bad, including that damn HOA. You hear me? So it was never going to be me believing the Chicago PD over Jussie. But once I got kind of into these details, it really solidified it. But at first, it was doing a little wish-washy back and forth. I didn't know what it was trying to say in the documentary. So we've got the documentary person who brought the story and got Jussie to open up through such a traumatic experience and be willing to participate in this documentary. We have Abigail Carr here with us today that's going to be talking with us. We have writer and journalist Jarrett Hill, who was also featured in the documentary. And we also have Shelly Stanley, who is the investigative journalist who blew the door open. And for me, this is what changed. This is what really changed the game, is her investigative journalism. So first, I want to bring on Shelly, because also, hey, Shelly girl,
Hey, thank you
how
so
are
much.
you?
Yes, good, good.
I
Thanks for
loved
inviting me.
your T-shirt. Never
Yes.
give up. I have a similar T-shirt. That's because I hear we share a similar background. We both are Nam Yoho Renge Kyo Nichiren Buddhists.
Yeah, exactly. I know that what you just read was like perfect for today. I was like, yes,
Yes, it
So,
really
and
is.
yeah, and honestly, like the only reason I could do this investigation through to now was because I practice Nichiren Buddhism, because it's like so many times, you get discouraged or there's obstacles you want to give up. But it's like we talk about making the impossible possible, and you have to battle your own self to do that. So
Yes, I'm. It all now starts to make sense to me, like behind the scenes of how, like some of these driving forces. You never know, like who is behind the scenes doing certain work, and so I want to first ask you, what uh drew you to this story and to thinking I need to look a little bit deeper.
yeah, so my dad is from Chicago. He's black and Japanese, and like I was growing up there as a kid, so I saw what was happening. And that, I just for 3 years, and then I moved to a different place, but that was what solidified for me like my desire for justice, you know, and equality and the ending of these things that are happening. And so I've been all over the world doing different work, but that vision, you know, so the fact that this happened in Chicago was what for me was the driving force of this cannot be the narrative. They cannot get away with this. You know, they are absolutely lying. I could, you know, I could tell they were lying. It was as clear as day to me, which is strange because obviously that wasn't the case for other
That
people.
is very. I want to pause there because that is
Yeah.
very strange to me as well. Because
Yeah.
it's what's really interesting is that when it comes to, let's say, the NWA, when it comes to our just history and understanding as a black community, it's always
Mhm.
been F the police. It's always
Mhm.
been understanding that they cannot be trusted. It's understanding the history of the Chicago PD with like the black box sites they would have, and just their participation in the Laquan McDonald case and how like nefarious things were there. So many of us were right from the get-go but when it came to an LGBTQ person, I think, do you think that those dynamics kind of shifted things for you, for folks
For
who were,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely there was homophobia going on. And also, I don't watch TV, you know, I very careful like what I consume because I've seen people lied on. And so I'm very careful like what sources I get. So I
Wow.
feel like the way the police did this in my analysis was like, it was like watching a cop show. You know, it was like it was just on the media constantly, so no one could get away from it. And then they come out with this press conference and they walk out like it's a cop show, and it was just like facts. It was like they've solved the case, conclusion, you know. And that was the moment everything changed, this press conference with them, you know, smoke and mirroring everybody and like no
And I
evidence
think they,
was
I think they
returned.
also affected public opinion. I mean, and I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
it's so odd because whenever someone has to defend themselves against our system, our criminal justice system, uh, they always try to prevent people from going out into the public to sway public opinion, and
Right.
it's just so
Exactly.
interesting to watch the system do it. And I think I saw remnants of this as well in the Luigi Mangione case, where it seemed like there was such a performance and pomp and circumstance for the thing, knowing that there had been things that weren't on the up and up within the investigation. So
Mm.
I want to bring on two more voices here that were featured in the documentary. Well, one, Abigail Carr, who is behind getting this documentary created and bringing it to the powers that be at Netflix, and also getting Jussie to kind of open up with all of this. Can you talk to me, Abigail, about like what it took in the beginning stages? Was Jussie kind of really excited about doing something like this? I feel like he wasn't, just because of all of the different commentary that was out there about it, and just feeling almost like he couldn't sway public opinion.
Absolutely. First off, thank you for inviting me
Yes,
to
thank
this.
you for
It's
being
nice to
here.
meet you. Um, I think that the atmosphere when I got involved in trying to gain access to Jussie, which is what you need to do when you're making a documentary about a case like this, you need access to the main man, that's Jussie, was that he was incredibly skeptical. He wasn't excited at all. I mean, he'd pretty much been crucified by the world's media. Everybody was saying he was guilty. So, his position really was no, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to speak. He'd been told not to speak as well. So he was silenced. And so
Wow.
trying to get access to somebody like that, who's very vulnerable at this point,
Hmm.
um, because I didn't get involved actually until sort of around 2022. So by this point, he's really been put through the ringer. He's everybody says he's a liar, uh, from the US all the way through around the world.
And
So,
even the comedians,
oh my
are
God, yeah,
making him a
absolutely.
punchline. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was horrific, and how I managed to gain the access in the end was it took a process of many many months of at first speaking to his brother and sister. I remember having a very uncomfortable Zoom with them where they presented themselves with so much dignity And they were so attractive as human beings, and they had so much strength. And I hadn't really done my research properly, I have to be honest. I didn't know anything beyond the headlines. So I thought, like the rest of the world, he's guilty. That is what I thought at the beginning.
Wow. Uh-huh.
I didn't know anything about Chicago. I knew nothing about the Chicago Police Department. I had no background whatsoever other than being a documentary maker in the UK and what I'd read in the headlines. And
So
watching
why this story for you?
it was an enormous story. And so, everybody was writing about it. Everybody was talking about it. The coverage was relentless. And like in America, it spread to the UK. So as somebody who is interested in big stories, and we pitched them to channels and broadcasters and streamers, this was an obvious one. So it was my job.
Wow.
More than anything else. I'd not heard of Jussie Smollett at first. I'd never seen the show Empire. I had no real interest other than it's my